case. Yeah. Yeah, you do guess so. You were the one getting parried. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. We have an exclusive, exciting interview for you all today. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome and just a general hello to my emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, Shadow Skull.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, Shadow Skull, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mithandir. How are you?
Just excellent. A lot better now that you're here. Now, a lot of people are clamoring, desperate to know, and this is just the most pressing question. So we've got to get it out of the way right off the bat. Actually, hold on. We forgot something before I start.
Mm.
We did forget a big old round of applause for Shadow Skull joining us. Everybody, give him a big round of applause.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it.
And we are going to be starting the interview now. So, Shadow Skull.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. Shadow Skull. What happened? Emperor Ali von Liechtenstein or Shadow Skull? Which do you prefer, Ali or Shadow Skull?
You can just call me Ali.
Ali. What happened in your duel versus me? Protoss Supremacy. What happened? You just go through the process of that duel. What went wrong for you?
Well, it was a full server, so there was considerable lag. I'm not gonna lie, I messed up, but it's okay, it happens. And I got an active division out of it, so I'm pretty happy.
So you're going back on your state. You're going back on your statement that you intentionally lost.
Hey, that was a joke, okay? I'm not gonna lie to the people.
So let's break down this fight one by one. So first off, this is what I remember, especially from
How did I
editing.
know that this is what the interview was gonna be about?
This is just, I mean, it would be a shame for me as a reporter not to ask the most pressing question. I mean, if you thought if you wanted softballs, you should have had deadline interviews. But you wanted a real interview. So let's get back on track. This is what really happened. The first part of the fight, we said go. I scream stop as a trick, and then I rush up. And then I actually try to hit you after yelling stop. So and this is really, it wasn't that because I didn't actually get a hit off. It was the fact I think you started laughing after I did that. Is that correct?
Yep, I found it pretty funny.
Excellent. So my 4,000 IQ plan works. So essentially, you're now laughing, disgruntled, off your rhythm, and then I get an early hit on you, and you freak out. You start telling everybody in the chat to chill, because everybody in the voice chat is freaking out that you got hit. And at that moment, as you're distracted, that's when I landed the parry of a lifetime. The parry heard round the world. Some have been calling it that. The parry heard round the world. Not me, but some. I've heard some call it the parry around the world. That's when the parry around the world happened, and at that point, it was just all over for you. Does that seem accurate?
That seems accurate. Yep.
So, what else? What else? What was the consequence of this duel? Did you have friends reaching out to you? Anybody leave the group? Or I know somebody in the chat hilariously said they were going to coup you.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. Well, I had a lot of people DMing me, asking how it happened, because they know that Mithandir is a very bad TTC player, so they were wondering how I lost to him. But it's okay. It happens.
Well, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter
even
how
the
many
best
times you get
players.
knocked down, just how many times you get back up. Is that right?
Exactly. Exactly. Not even the best players, they lose sometimes. It's okay.
Well, now that this is all behind us, what do you think of Holland since the new count has taken over?
Surprisingly, it's very much up to HRE standards, the events, and it's increased in activity. I'm very happy.
Oh, that's good to hear. For
Yeah.
this is directly because of the new count, holding all those activities and hosting and doing all those tryouts, right?
Yep, pretty much. Well,
So, no, go ahead.
actually, you can continue.
Well, I'm just gonna
Moving on to the
I'm
next
gonna
question.
transition now that I'm done trolling you. So,
Okay.
what? Let's get to the serious part of the interview. What do you think about the current state of Holy Roman Empire in Lionhearts? Obviously, this is a faction that's had a pretty active history, especially over the last few years. But before then, really wasn't that active of a faction. I remember periods of dead time for HRE. So, what do you think of HRE now? How is it doing, and what goals do you have for the future?
HRE, when I took over, wasn't in the best position, and that's why the Templars decided to try and take advantage of that when they declared war on us. But uh, me and my team, we managed to quickly get things in order and start getting back on track. And it's going really well. I'm very proud of what we managed to achieve. Right now, uh, we actually dominate our home region of SL, 42% region ownership, and that's pretty cool.
And what was the process like taking over? Who was your predecessor? Could you?
My predecessor was Bean, also known as Hades.
And
He was,
what was the process of you becoming leader? How did it happen?
well, I guess I was just in the right place at the right time, to be honest. And yeah, I was actually 3IC when it happened and not 2IC. But the prince electors of the Holy Roman Empire, they decided that I was best fit to lead. And yeah, that's how it happened.
And were you? Were you best fit to lead? Do you feel like you were prepared at the time to take on such a big responsibility?
I do. I do think that I was the best choice at the time.
What sort of changes did you enact? You've been emperor. I think it's at least has it been a year now?
About 7 months.
Okay, so not quite a year. And what have you done as emperor? What was the first thing you did when you took over?
The first thing I tried to do, or the first thing I did, was get HRE back up to its original standards. Uh, HRE for a time before I was emperor, it wasn't up to its correct standards. It wasn't as in order as you would think HRE would be. So the first thing I did was just, you know, get back up to standards and get everything in order.
And was that a difficult process, adapting, learning how to be a leader, or did you take it in stride?
Well, I I had a lot of people to help me. Especially some of the previous emperors, I got in contact with them and they were with me through the whole way. Especially Cog, the head of moderation. He has been a big part of my reign.
And he was a former
Uh,
emperor, so was he giving you guidance?
exactly, yeah. He was giving me guidance the whole way, and yeah. To be honest, I couldn't have done anything without the people around me. they're just always a really big part of what I do.
What do you think Lionhearts is fun for a leader?
Personally, I enjoy being a faction leader. Um, I think it has its stressful times, but it's worth it. I enjoy it.
What is it? What are those stressful times? Tell me more about that. What? How does that weigh on you personally when those stressful times happen?
Mm. Well, mm, you have, as a faction leader, you have a big responsibility. You are the face of your faction. You are responsible for everything that happens in your faction, and there's a lot of pressure on you to perform well and do well. And sometimes it just gets stressful, but it's always fun. I enjoy it.
What's been the biggest challenge? Can you think of a moment that was particularly hard or challenging in the last 7 months?
Mm. You know, this current ongoing war, we're winning right now, and we have been for a while. But getting to this point and beating the Templars, it was a hard process. Because they're a formidable foe, but we managed to do it. We overcame the challenges of being attacked by these Templars.
Obviously, mentioning the Templars there, you share the southern Levant, specifically the most southern part of southern Levant, with Templars. What's made them more of an adversary than an ally? Is it simply their Federation ties, or is there something more personal going on there with your relationship with their leader Tilla?
When I first uh, began my reign, the first thing I did was reach out to the Federation leaders and express HRE's intention to just be friendly with them, and they accepted. And I thought we were on good terms. Me and my team, we thought we were just on good terms, but uh, apparently we weren't. But we 100% tried our hardest to be friends with these guys. We tried not to be their adversaries, but they decided they chose their path, I guess. And it's obviously not been a good choice for them.
So they initiated the war. They started attacking you first.
Yeah, they definitely initiated the war, just randomly attacking us and ganging up on us with some Federation factions. It was actually like we were very surprised when we got attacked because, like I said, we thought we were on good terms, so we were betrayed.
What does that feel like in the Parabellum era of Lionhearts, where a war can end literally in your puppeting? We've seen that uh, just recently this week with Saddam puppeting Lettuce, the Emperor of Cyprus, out, and now
Hmm.
Lettuce is completely thrown out of his faction just by simply losing a war. So wars are now more consequential than ever in the last year. How does it feel when you wake up or you see, or you just hear in a political declaration, oh, the Federation has declared war on me? Are you ever worried or scared about your status as a leader being lost?
To be honest, uh, I surround myself with the best people there is. So puppeting or getting cooped, this is stuff that doesn't really worry me because HRE, in its own, it's just known as a stable faction. And like I said, I've just surrounded myself with really cool, helpful, the best of the best, really. So that stuff doesn't really worry me.
What does worry you as a leader? Is there anything that does
Hmm.
concern you or keep you up at night?
I don't know. Maybe, I'm always worried about keeping my faction active, and sometimes, every faction has a time where it's inactive, and it does worry me. We try our hardest to just stay up to our standards and stay active, but it is something to worry about.
Do you ever feel burned out playing or leading, and that contribute to these periods of activity, inactivity?
Um, I have felt burnt out before, but mm, I I see part of being a good faction leader being. I see that a part of being a good faction leader is not having your faction completely rely on you. I think that's just the key to failure, basically. Um, so I've taken breaks when I've felt burnt out, and we built HRE so that it runs even if I'm not 100% online all the time. And that's just how it works.
I do think that that's, in my experience, the difference between a successful faction and a failed one. Um, Even if you have a good leader, if the faction doesn't run leaders offline, then it's not a good faction, and
Exactly.
it's going to rally way less, and it's going to be way less self sufficient. But I would also say, and this is also a question: do you feel like that's the most challenging part of being a leader is getting it to be self sufficient and finding those people?
Hmm. Another thing, another stressful thing about being a leader is dealing, not most leaders, they don't care about it, but it really is important how the public views you, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. Um, most leaders, they don't care about that, and it has led to failure. It is something to worry about. You need to worry about what people think of you. And from the start, I've just attempted to be the best person I can, a good guy, a man of the people.
What
And it is challenging. It is challenging to do that.
who's your biggest inspiration as a leader, either in Lionhearts, outside of Lionhearts, somebody you look up to, maybe for advice, just as a role model?
Well, hmm, um, I have to say, I think that person is Cog, the former emperor. Um, he's the one I've looked to for advice for a very long time now. Uh, he knows what's up. He's led the faction before. Um, I believe he's a good role model to look up to and learn from. Yeah.
Is it hard to trust Cog and some of these other high ranks, knowing that they could start a rebellion or against you at any time? Is it difficult to select these people? And what's your vetting process for finding people you could trust?
Well, to answer your first question, no, it doesn't worry me because, like I said, I surround myself with the best people, and I do believe these are the best people. People like Deadline, Cog, Gabo Boy to my whole diet is just all good people, and they wouldn't be in the diet if I didn't trust them 100% and believe in them.
Have you ever been burned or betrayed before in your time as a leader where, hey, I made a bad choice. I selected the wrong.
Hmm. Well, I've had to remove division leaders before, but that's not because they betrayed me in any way. It's just because they were uh, not best fit for that position, I guess. But no, I'm very careful about this kind of stuff. So no, I have not been betrayed really. Like internally in the faction, I have not been betrayed.
What's your biggest gripe with Lionheart's biggest issue? And I want to go ahead and exclude. I'd rather the answer not be uniform helmets, if possible. I know that's
To be honest, they're not even that much of an issue for me. I love how I look and I love how my faction looks.
okay,
The
good because
uniforms are very
I know for some factions they feel like they get the short end of the stick outfits, and I know that that's um.
yeah.
But the reason I exclude that is just because it's not as helpful for game mechanics. Or I'd really like to
I
know,
understand.
and also if you could speak on behalf of not only yourself but maybe your faction members. They say
Some of I think the issue that I think what might have been a problem for most of us is that sometimes we feel forced to, some RBs are just at really bad times for us, and we feel that we have to get to there and we have to fight, or else we're just gonna lose everything. And it definitely is hard to deal with that and have to get on even at the worst times.
that contribute now. That contribute your members leaving. Like, hey, I can't get on. I can't get up at 3 a.m. So can't get up at 3 and against Federation. Right? Like, that's something that contributes to quitting or burn.
Of course it does, but we're very careful about that. We recognize that burnout is a real problem, so we don't force anyone to come to the RB. If when we host events, we make sure these events are fun. Make sure that the people, when they come to the events, they actually enjoy them and they don't just come to, like, finish it up and get promoted. We want the place to be a fun place that people actually enjoy.
And just a reminder, everybody watching, if you join on Twitch, well, you can also get Credenzio coin, and you there. Back to the interview. Oh, I guess follow up to that is what would your solution be? We've tried. I've tried everything I can think of to try to fix this problem,
Mhm.
including the 24/7 thing. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but we actually proposed that as a solution to burn. It just didn't work out that way. And when we
Yeah.
proposed polls, people don't seem to want the road battles to be less often. We had long periods where once a day or 4 times a day, and it seems to me that this time seems to be the most optimal of the time gated. Um, I know some people propose like, oh, we can vote on a time. However, that really screws over people in bad time zones. They'll never have a good road battle time where they can get on. So, what would your suggestion be on that? Have one?
I mean, hmm, I don't know really. I've thought about it before, but I don't know. I just I don't think. my duties, I don't think that fits my duties. I'm just mostly thinking about my faction and uh, whatever whatever changes, whatever patches happen, we just adapt. We just adapt to that.
So, and guys, please let me know if the audio issues with my mic are fixed or not. I hope that it hasn't been too bad. But the question to Shadow was, how do we fix RBs? Specifically, the issue with people getting burned out and then being time baited, and that was my question. So I understand you don't have a solution, but certainly you might think, okay, something could be preferable to this. Is there anything that you would prefer to the current way we do road battles?
I do think that 30 lives is too much, and it might force people to stay on for longer than they'd want to. I do think decreasing the lives to maybe 10 or 15 would be really good and would be more fun for everyone.
Okay, I could see that. And we are getting, we've lost your cam. I disconnected, so I'm coming back to now. Um, yeah, I think lowering the lives could be adequate. Um, what do you think? 20?
Mm, I was thinking even lower than that. Like I said, 10 to 15.
10 to 15? Well, I'll talk to our devs and see about it. I don't know what the chat thinks about that proposal. Um, but got your camera on. I'm definitely willing to look at that. I think 20
Yeah.
might be more fair to start just to see. Um, but yeah, what would that do? Like encourage more conservative play?
It would just right now with the 30 lives, uh, almost no one like actually runs out of lives during RBs. So decreasing it to 10 to 15 would make it so there's a higher chance that you actually run out of lives during an RB, and then the RB, and that you're not forced to fight for as long as you would with 30 lives.
Obviously, it's a delicate balance, right?
It is.
Make the road battles, like for example, garrison capture times, make garrisons too easy to capture, and then factions get vassalized and it's a lot more unstable. Make them too hard to capture and it feels too grindy and like there's no progress, right?
Yeah, it is hard to find that really good balance.
What do you do in Lionhearts besides fighting? What's your favorite activity to do in Lionhearts besides fighting? Is there even anything to do besides that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, faction events, uh, hosting faction events are really fun, and I hope it's also fun for the people attending. We always try to make it as fun as possible, like I said. But yeah, hosting these faction events and just being a friendly community together and just having fun together, it's really good.
And what do you do at these events? Is there any, I mean, you guys have been very active, so maybe these fun events have been a key to that. You've certainly mentioned that. Is there some specific thing you like to do for a fun event?
Mm. I'd say when we host trainings, uh, we we have high standards for trainings, so we make sure that um, you actually learn something when you attend one of our trainings, and we also make sure that you have fun. Um, at the end of trainings, I think it's good to I think it's good to do some sort of fun activity with them, like a game night, or sometimes you play hide and seek at Cairo, and it's very fun.
I like the creativity. I do think that, and I've mentioned this in other interviews, I do think that Lionhearts does have a lack of things to do outside of fighting. Um, I think role play and sort of community events are obviously a
I
solution to
think,
that.
yeah, I really think people underestimate the value of roleplay and that kind of stuff. We've been made fun of because of it for like a really long time, but it is really a key to our success.
Tell me more about that because that's definitely something I wanted to get into. Is HRE has been, as you've mentioned, sort of blasted about put on blast
Yeah,
rather about how much you guys role play. I know it was a much bigger. I think it's toned down a little bit to my knowledge, but what I'm certainly a fan of it. I think it makes the experience a lot more enjoyable.
yeah,
I
it
know some
does.
people would say, "Oh, it's too hardcore. You're going to get burned out." But back in our day, we had much less features, um,
Yeah,
and you know, the assassins, we'd patrol Masyaf and we'd role play for hours because that's what there was to do, and it wasn't cringing role play. It was more like actually, hey, we're going to patrol the walls. Hey, you're going to refer to me as mentor. You're going to refer to me as these things. We're going to actually play our roles that we're already dressing up as, and it just made the experience more enjoyable and also made our troops more disciplined. So tell us a little bit about how you implement the role play and how do you get people on board with that.
yeah, that's really what we try to do. We try to so when people first join, we it's introduced the role play is introduced to them in a safe way and in a friendly way. Um,
Talk about
it's
that. What
not
does that
really like,
mean? What do you mean by that?
well, most people that have joined, they've never really had a problem with role play. Uh, People do make fun of us for it, but if they'd actually, joined a faction and try it out for themselves, or just implement it in their own faction, they'd find that it's really fun, and it's really effective too. Um, yeah,
What is it effective at?
discipline troops. It's definitely one of the biggest things that it helps for, and it's also, like I said, it just keeps things fun, man. Uh, when there's nothing to do,
Do you
our
do
trainings
you
are
go ahead?
our tra- our trainings are they're what role play in HRE is what makes us unique. It's what the role play is what makes us different from other factions. And our trainings, they have, of course, they have a role play aspect to it, and that's why we think they're very effective at um, at disciplining the troops and making their time enjoyable.
Um, what do you think we could do from a development standpoint to encourage role play? Because I do think when you lack features like we're talking about, role play can make up for that and make the game a lot more enjoyable. Yet, I'd say 15 out of the 16 factions don't embrace it the level HRE does, or at all.
Yeah,
How do you encourage that in the rest of the genre? Um, from a development standpoint, like, is there something we could add that could make it better? I think titles have helped. Maybe I don't know really.
mm. I mean, they've definitely helped in some way, definitely. I think it's just mostly up to the faction leaders, and it's up to the factions to really implement that in their factions and to really embrace it. I don't know what there is to do really from the development aspect. It's just up to the factions.
What would you? I've asked you what your biggest issue with Lionhearts is. What would you add if you could add one thing to Lionhearts? What would it be?
Probably siege weapons right now. I think siege weapons and like having actual sieges with siege camps would be insanely fun. And I think it would encourage roleplay.
Interesting. I definitely think that siege weapons would be an awesome addition.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to your members, people watching this that look up to you? You got a couple of your men on the left there behind
Yep,
you.
I see them.
What do you have to
It's two
say
of my very
to
trusted dudes.
the loyal soldiers of HRE, from Emperor to them?
Um, well, the first thing I have to do is thank every single one of them for sticking by me. Um, from the bottom of my heart, seriously, thank you. Uh, no, none of what we have accomplished could have been accomplished without them. Uh, we are we are nothing without our people. I really believe that, and that's why I believe it's really important to take care of them and be a good role model for them and be a good example.
Are you planning on moving on soon, retiring?
To be honest, no, I'm not. Like I said, I've been really enjoying being a faction leader and just being an example for all of these guys and all these people. They've just made the experience 100 times more fun. People like, as I've mentioned, Cog, Deadline, Care, the Duke of Saxony, Gabba Boy, all these people, and people that I have not mentioned.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave after you're done? At the end of the day, who knows? Maybe that's 10 years from now. But what
Maybe.
legacy do you want to leave?
I just I wanna make my mark. I wanna leave my mark in a good way. I do think I have just so much left to do and so much legacy to build. Um, I just want to be remembered as a cool guy, man, and as a guy that made things more enjoyable and fun.
Well, Ali, Emperor of HRE, thanks for joining me. We really appreciate it. And that
No
was
worries, man.
very insightful. Any final thoughts?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And we're going to end it with. Oh, wait, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that I really enjoyed being here and talking about all these things.
Well, we're going to end it on
I
a good
think,
note.
yep.
All right, guys. That was a bombshell of an interview. Thank you all very much for joining. Um, and we will be doing more. We're going to be doing a giveaway right after this. Ali, once again, thanks for joining us. All right. You guys like the little soundboard? You couldn't hear the soundboard? Couldn't hear the Zangid theme? You couldn't hear the claps? Really? Seriously? My god, that's awful. What about this? I don't know why it didn't appear. That's very odd. Oh, I think I know why. Let's try it now. That's the theme I did at the end of the interview. And this.
Huh? Huh?
All right, that's enough of that. All right, we're gonna do our giveaway now. Okay. Good time. Ugh. Now that the interview's over, I can finally take off my tie. Getting hot in here. Hey. Third Crusade leader tier list. Would you guys like to see that? Tier list of the historical leaders of the Crusades? Thoughts on Ewing? Thanks, Ambond. Appreciate that. History's for nerds, huh? Oh. Do that giveaway now? I feel good. I'm feeling generous today. Damascus upgrade stone refined. Enter in the amount of tickets you want to bid. I'll be right back, and we will announce the winner when I am. All right. Only 6 users have entered the giveaway, guys. So just enter raffle and then a number of tickets that you want to buy. Raffle and then the number of tickets you want to buy. This is a Damascus upgrade stone, people. Refined Damascus upgrade stone. You get goofy coins every 5 minutes that you chat. Get Credenzio coin. You can buy a max of 15 tickets. Each one costs 5 Credenzio coins. Only a minute and 40 seconds left to enter into the interview. Into the thing. And I will do the Crusade Leaders tier list. You. Never mind, the tier list is not. "24 seconds. 24 seconds. Your gambling addiction with Credenzio coins work. That's good to hear. All right, timer's up. Winner is Winter Waffle. Congratulations, Winter Waffle. Won a Damascus upgrade. Congratulations. Congratulations. How do you claim? You wait, DM me and I'll give it to you. All right. Third Crusade Leaders tier list. We are doing the tier list of the Third Crusade Leaders history. So each one, guys, make sure to leave a like down on the video below. When we get to 20 likes, we'll be doing a giveaway. Let's see. Okay. First up, we have the Abbasids al-Nasir il-Din Allah. Let's make sure that we're doing our research, because I do not know the Abbasid leader well. Was he at the Battle of Hattin? Well, his wiki page isn't that long, so he couldn't have been that good, right? My knowledge of the Abbasids during the time of the Third Crusade is that they're in general decline. This is leading up to the Mongol sacking of Baghdad, which they burned the city down. It was never rebuilt to the same extent. I'm going to put this guy in D tier. I've never heard of him. And that may be incorrect. That's just my opinion. He really wasn't impactful in the Third Crusade. None of the books I've read on the Third Crusade really even ever mention this guy. Of course, he's a faction in our game, Lionheart's faction, the Abbasids. But next, we have Bohemond of Antioch. Let's see, close ally of the Byzantine Empire. Bohemond was installed as prince after his mother was dethroned. He assisted the siege of Crac de Chevalier. Of course, being allied to the Byzantines kind of put him at odds with the Crusaders a little bit. Bohemond, somebody that did have impact in the Third Crusade, however, relatively minor. He is going to be C tier. Bohemond, not incredibly impactful. Again, the Antioch was also sort of in decline, especially at this time. Not quite up to its former glory, especially after the establishment of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. For Jerusalem, we have... Why is there two Jerusalem people on here? Weird. Conrad of Montferrat. I'm pretty sure this guy lived in Tyre. Yeah, this guy's the guy who was in Tyre. This guy was actually quite a Chad. Conrad was actually Richard's pick to be king of Jerusalem over Guy de Lusignan. And he never quite made it to that title, but he was allied with Richard. He had a famous defense of Tyre, obviously, and did quite a good job. I prefer him to Guy. I think he was a much more competent. I'm going to put him in A tier. He was definitely better than a lot of alternatives. Next, Frederick Barbarossa. This is the meme guy. HRE. Very famously died in a river, drowned in a small river, just falling off his horse. But actually was quite a Chad as far as his reign and rise in the Holy Roman Empire. Need some music. Let's get some... It feels a little stale in here. There we go. There we go. That's much better. So, where were we? Frederick Barbarossa. He was participant in the Second Crusade and the Third Crusade. His campaign was completely botched, but his son, I believe, son or nephew, picked up the army and continued it, but lost a majority of their force and wasn't a heavy impact on the Third Crusade. This is a third crusade tier list. This guy was a very good leader, but had a pretty horrific and humiliating end. He's going to get B tier. If it was before then, he was actually probably A or S. But considering his impact on the Third Crusade was basically minimal due to his early demise, I think it's more than fair to put him in B tier. Next, Guy de Lusignan. This guy, sort of the villain in the Kingdom of Heaven movie. He was Philip's pick to be King of Jerusalem. So made him a little bit of a rival to Richard. This guy, he was kind of a liar. He promised Saladin that he would retire, and he ended up attacking Acre, which isn't very honorable, in my opinion. He also lost the Battle of Hattin, and, was unable to really do anything in the Siege of Acre. You could credit him for starting the Siege of Acre, but we all know that Richard won it. I don't really like this tier list. I'd rather, I'm going to make a new one below. Complete failure. That's F tier. I do feel like we know who Guy was, but he pretty much lost the Kingdom of Jerusalem. So he's F tier. And I definitely think Conrad would have been a much better King of Jerusalem had either of them become it. But Guy, he wasn't a complete failure, but as far as this list goes, he is. Next, we have Tancred in Sicily, who kind of resisted Richard's initial coming to Syracuse, although he did eventually concede and sign a treaty. He was imprisoning Richard's sister, that's right. Another one of these just sort of Norman kings of Sicily. Not really contributing much to the Third Crusade, although if you get Richard to concede to anything, you are okay. I mean, he really didn't do much. Didn't really participate in the Crusade. I'm going to put him in C tier. Just didn't really do much. Not Dogwater, not good. Next, we have the Byzantines, Isaac II Angelos. And he had a pretty bad reign. He had of course, he was ousted. By Alexios III, that's right. And he was also, kind of just incompetent. It says here he let the Byzantine navy shrink down to just 30 galleys. That's pretty pathetic. I don't... The Byzantine Empire's in decline. They had some good leaders along the way, for sure. This guy wasn't one of them. Was he like the worst leader ever? No, but he also didn't really help in the Crusade. He was probably more of a hindrance. And honestly, just pretty bad. I think he's a complete failure, honestly. Below Guy, even. Not a good leader. Next, we have Isaac Komnenos of Cyprus, who basically declared himself an emperor and illegitimate. He did stand up to Richard. He was overthrown. Pretty brutally, lost humiliatingly to Richard. His attempt to kind of claim the Byzantine Empire for himself as a false regent from abroad was sort of interesting. I don't think he's a complete failure, but definitely pretty mid. And it's not that much of a discredit to get destroyed by Richard, but it is not good either. Next, we have Nablus for the Hospitallers. I don't know much about Nablus's reign in the Hospitallers. However, the Hospitallers were pretty successful part of the Third Crusade. Yeah, their participation in Arsuf was definitely notable, although I don't think the Hospitallers and Nablus were the best in this era. And for that reason, he's kind of unnotable, but we'll put him in C tier. Next, we have the Assassins, Old Man of the Mountain, Rashid ad-Din Sinan. Now, there's a lot of this that's kind of from, the Assassin's Creed video games, but this guy was actually a Chad, and the Assassins were probably at their height under the Old Man of the Mountain. And I do think that he accomplished a lot given his position. Not somebody who is super well known historically, but had a huge impact on the Third Crusade. That is true. Especially famously planting a knife next to Saladin's bed, relieving that siege. Also participating in some assassinations through his men, and just being very feared. The best of all the assassin leaders ever. I do think that puts him in S tier, or at least high A. Godlike, everybody knows their name. Maybe from the Assassin's Creed games, yeah, maybe. I do think he deserves S. He's gonna be like low S, high A. Next, we have Philip II of France. I don't need to really look at the wiki. I know a lot about this guy. This guy, if you were to put the failure of the Third Crusade at the hands of one person, it would be Philip II. He was more concerned with his rivalry with Richard, sabotaging Richard from abroad. He was definitely very envious and jealous of Richard's military success, charisma. He sabotaged the crusade. He didn't accomplish anything on his own. He was a thorn in the side of Richard. He attacked his castles. He broke his treaty with Richard. They both accepted a pact. Hey, we'll go on crusade together. We won't attack each other's lands while we're on crusade, because they were competing for land in France. Philip II retreated from the crusade and started attacking Richard's land while he was gone. Pretty despicable guy. Definitely in the Third Crusade, was under the shadow of Richard, despite the fact that Richard was subservient to him in a way in that weird feudal system. Just kind of a pathetic character. I really don't like him. He's definitely my least favorite. He's definitely bottom of F tier. Without him interfering, I think he could have just not shown up and not sabotaged Richard, and the crusade would have been a success. So, total hindrance. Next, the Red Eagle of Saladin. This one's really easy. This is just top of S tier. Saladin lost every battle he fought with Richard, but he was the reason the crusade had to be called in the first place. He's been romanticized a lot in Western culture as far as being sort of a proponent of knightly virtue, despite being a Saracen, despite being a Muslim and not being a Christian. He's depicted very positively in the West, which is odd because you think of other ones like Baybars or Nur ad-Din were kind of villainized. But it's worth it. I mean, he was very merciful. He was definitely charismatic, a good strategist, not the best. Definitely very organized, had some, just very brilliant diplomatically. Also just rallying and uniting the Muslim forces in the Middle East under his banner. Obviously apprenticed under Nur ad-Din, which made him very formidable just to have that asset, that resource. Definitely easy S tier. Saladin is goated. Sure. Next, Richard. My personal favorite hero of the Third Crusade. The Crusade would have been a complete disaster without Richard. Actually, he was probably the only reason that it had any success whatsoever. Richard was in position to take Jerusalem. He could have taken Jerusalem. Probably pretty easily. He made a tactical decision not to take it because he knew he couldn't hold it. He didn't want to risk the men. So he struck a deal with Saladin, allowing some of his troops to visit the Holy Sepulchre. Saladin accepted, which was quite virtuous of him, in my opinion. And just overall, one of the best leaders, not only best leader in the Third Crusade, but one of the best military leaders ever. Didn't lose any battles, was a warrior at the front lines. His relationship with Saladin was really fascinating. They would write letters together, although they never met. He and Saladin were kind of in a frenemy relationship. Of course, the stain on his reputation is the 3,000 men massacred at Acre. And that's something I'd like to talk about a little bit. Saladin was essentially toying with Richard in a cat and mouse game after Richard took Acre. Richard was negotiating for some gold in order to release the 3,000 Saracen prisoners he had. Saladin kept stalling. It was Saladin's plan to keep stalling and to just stall out the crusade entirely while he could rally his troops. Meanwhile, Richard's using vital supplies, vital resources to both guard and feed and house the 3,000 soldiers. So Richard decided, I'm not going to keep playing this game. He executes all 3,000 of the prisoners in quite a barbaric move. It was calculated. This wasn't, of course, it was a horrendous thing to do, but it was a calculated move by Richard to not have to fall victim to the plans of Saladin like many Crusader leaders had before. It was kind of him seizing the initiative, and then he moved south to Arsuf, freed of the burden of the prisoners, although he never got the gold. And it's kind of amazing their relationship was recovered after this, unfortunately for the 3,000 souls. But that's the one stain on his reputation, really. It was said he would have sold London if he could have to fund the crusade. He was just a complete warrior king. He was succeeded by his brother John, who is the villain in Robin Hood because he was such a bad king. His successes were astounding. One of the best generals, tacticians of all time. I have to put him at the top of S tier. And the reason he's above Saladin is because he defeated Saladin many times in battle. And Saladin's forces were crumbling, and the morale was super low at the end of the Third Crusade. It was actually one of the reasons that they could sign their treaty and their peace. Had Richard not started the Third Crusade, the Crusaders would have been wiped out of the Levant. They wouldn't have had any stronghold. The Kingdom of Acre and the reestablished Kingdom of Jerusalem would have never been fought. Further crusades would have been impossible. He didn't conquer Jerusalem, but he basically did everything else possible. Besides that, his battle at Jaffa was so legendary. And you can just see here, casualties 2 to 700 casualties. He was vastly outnumbered. Obviously, this is probably exaggerated, but still, just incredible. Battle of Jaffa is one of the coolest events ever. It's actually, you can play through the battle in 15v15 in Lionhearts in our game. So, really incredible guy. Next, we have Robert of Sable. Robert de Sable. This guy's the villain in Assassin's Creed. I don't know much about him. Says he was successful campaigning. I think he did better and was more well-known than Nablus. And, you know, I guess he did take over Cyprus. And, you know, I think he was suitable, worthy leader. Not somebody that's super well-remembered. I just put him right below Barbarossa in B tier. Next, we have Kilij Arslan II. Being the Ayyubids are the major player from the Muslim side, now not much is spoken about with him in the Third Crusade. And you can see he kind of just dies right shortly after the Crusade starts. I can't remember. Yeah, he definitely was not Manzikert's. So, I mean, he's an adversary of the Byzantines. Not much else to really report on him. He's kind of just going to be top of D tier, maybe low C. You know, I'd say maybe low C is good. Next, we have Teutonics with Sibrand. This is actually the first founder of the Teutonic Order. Didn't really do much outside of that. You know, founded from the Siege of Acre afterwards, and started the Teutonic Knights after the Siege of Acre. So kind of cool, but mid. You know, didn't do something. Maybe just B tier for founding the Teutonics, but otherwise not much. Next, we have the Zangid leader, Izz-al-Din Mazud. Wow, this wiki page is short. Another really... Saladin's really the head honcho, the king of the Muslim world at this time. And I'm pretty sure that some of these Muslims actually served as adversaries as well as allies. But certainly nobody in the Crusades was talking about or concerned with the Zangids at this time. Their time had kind of passed. And for that reason, he is in D tier. Who is this guy? Well, anyway, that is my Crusades leaders tier list. I'm not a historian, although I did study history. I'm sure there's a big possibility I'm completely wrong, especially about this Abbasid leader. Just didn't know enough about him. But as far as the Third Crusade goes, I feel like this is a pretty fair list. Some people may disagree with my placement of Philip as so low, but that's really how I feel. It's just, if you read, it's pretty obvious that Richard was the hero, and he did everything he could to sabotage Richard's attempts. Oh, and a previous mistake, actually. I think I got confused. I think Guy might have been Richard. Yeah, that's right. Conrad and Guy got mixed up as far as Richard was supporting Guy, Philip was supporting Conrad. So in that aspect, Philip was better at picking. Guy, that's right. Guy was the pick of Richard, and he gave him Cyprus, I think, afterwards. But still, Guy, it doesn't change the rankings, just an error from earlier. So I hope you guys liked the list. Do a poll. See what people thought. Do you agree with this tier list? If not, why? I'm curious. You do exclamation point vote yes or no. All right. Full results are in. Looks like a W tier list. 88% voted yes. Here we go. Sick. Awesome. Wow, guys. That's my reaction to this tier list. Yo, guys, check it out. I'm blowing up Mithandir's tier list. There we go. That should wake everybody up. Good morning! Good morning! Only 11 likes. I guess we're not doing another giveaway. Good night, to be fair. I love doing that. Match is starting. Get ready.
Huh? 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 Huh?
You went back in game because you thought the match started. That's fine. All right, we've got an upload ready, looks like, guys. All right, guys. That's going to do it for our stream. Might be streaming again later. Didn't quite get up to that 20 likes mark. So no giveaway. Second giveaway. But perhaps in the future, my friends. Hope you guys had a good night. See you later.